Whether it's Carnage creating havoc, the Anti-Monitor destroying universes, Golb sowing discord, or Johann Liebert manipulating everyone who crosses his path, sometimes a villain just wants to watch the world burn, and the world of Transformers is no different. Today, we'll dive into the history of a character that would destroy countless worlds to feed his hunger, forcibly create his own heralds, and set his sights on a multiverse devoid of life and cloaked in darkness. Prepare to explore a character who embodies chaos in its grandest form. This is the dark side of Transformers, the story of Unicron. First making his terrifying debut in 1986 as the Transformers the movie, and voiced by the legendary Orson Welles. Unicron would make his presence known by devouring the world of Lithone in the opening moments of the film, proving he's not just a villain, he's a force of nature, capable of destruction on a planetary scale that has not yet been seen. Alerted that Optimus Prime had been killed at the hands of Megatron, and the matrix of leadership was no longer protected by the Autobot leader, he would enact his plans to finally devour Cybertron. To aid him in his conquest, he would reformat a mortally wounded Megatron into Galvatron, and grant him an army of other reformatted Decepticons in exchange for his loyalty and the destruction of the Matrix. Although he would be defeated at the hands of Rodimus Prime and the Matrix, the fallout from his attempt would reverberate through the third and fourth seasons of the G1 series, but his impact would be much larger, opening the gates to a darker narrative with larger-than-life threats. The Lord of Chaos has arrived, and the Transformers multiverse will not be the same. While Unicron would be introduced in 1986, and would later be revealed in the Season 3 episode called The Primitives, to be created as a tool for the scientist Primacron to destroy all life in the universe. He would not reach the status of a dark god until the Marvel Comics series in 1989. When the universe began, there were two gods, one of light, Primus, and the other of darkness, Unicron, locked in an eternal struggle. The two would come to blows until Primus and Unicron would trap themselves in an asteroid, where they would ultimately take shape as Cybertron and a planet devourer respectively, and the Transformers would be created to combat this apocalyptic threat. Primus's worst fears would be realized, and the combined forces of the Autobots and Decepticons will be needed to stop Unicron's consumption of Cybertron, while the appearance of Unicron and his cult-like acolytes would strike fear into the heart of every Cybertronian. An attack by Galvatron would embolden the world's forces to take a stand, and lead some like Scorponok, Thunderwing, and Brainstorm to sacrifice themselves to stop this menace. The battle that would leave Energon spilled all across the planet would only end when Optimus Prime would be able to deal the finishing blow with the cleansed creation matrix that had become corrupted with an evil essence. While Prime would bring light in the darkest hour to a world wholly unprepared for this menacing foe. This was just the beginning for the Chaos Bringer, and his true potential would soon be realized. In the vast lore of the Transformers multiverse, the birth of the Chaos Bringer is more than just a creation story. Instead, it's a story of balance between light and dark, and the existential dread that it inflicts. In the G1 series, it was Primacron and his mad science. A more philosophical origin unravels in the Marvel Comics Continuity, as Unicron and Primus are the embodiment of the universe's relationship between order and chaos, but his creation mythos does not end here. In contrast, Unicron Trilogy refrains from an origin story, instead positioning Unicron as a recurring nemesis, a manifestation of sheer hatred, constantly evolving to threaten Cybertron, portraying a looming danger that tests the limits of heroism. With the IDW Comics Continuity, Unicron is representative of the Uncreator, a counterbalance to a benevolent god, and awoken by the machinations of Shockwave that would require the cooperation between friends and foes to vanquish. In Transformers Prime and the Aligned Continuity, Unicron can be found at the core of Earth, forming a planet after being defeated by Primus' creation, the 13 Primes. The dark energon flowing from his dormant body plaguing the world and giving rise to the dead. These origins prove that no matter the purpose of his creation, he's a force that transcends good and evil, looking to topple the balance in his favor, no matter the cost. As Unicron traveled through different continuities, he left a path of destruction and despair, taking countless lives and leaving nothing in his wake, marking a terrifying evolution from a force of nature balanced in the universe to pure malevolence itself, no longer just a destructive entity. Each incarnation led him deeper into the abyss, whether it be his creation of the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse in the Dreamwave Unicron Trilogy comics, which would see Rhinox, Airazor, Cheetor, and Terrorsaur kidnapped and tortured by Unicron, corrupting their sparks and becoming war, death, pestilence, and famine respectively, possessing Megatron with his anti-spark, and reviving the extinct Predacons with his Dark Energon and Transformers Prime, as a ploy to finally defeat Primus and end Cybertron, or enslaving Transformers as his heralds, whether it be through the promise of an army like Megatron in the 1986 film, or survival such as with Scourge after he becomes the single remaining survivor of Unicron's attack on his homeworld in Transformers Rise of the Beast. Across his history, it's become glaringly apparent that Unicron is not just a villain. He's a cataclysm, a living apocalypse, a hunger that can't be satisfied, that's weaved itself through the very fabric of the Transformers multiverse, bringing with him an era of darkness, pushing heroes and villains alike to unprecedented limits, forcing them to confront the darkest aspects of their existence. As the Chaos Bringer carved his way through galaxies, he also irrevocably changed those he deemed useful into energon-thirsty sycophants, those unfortunate enough to be summoned, forged into something entirely different through the pure hatred radiating from Unicron, and function as an extension of his twisted desires. It began with Galvatron, birthed from the battered remains of Megatron, and enslaved along with Cyclonus, Scourge, and his armada. They were not brainwashed servants. Instead, they bore a direct connection with the Lord of Chaos, who would torture them the moment they deviated from his dark path, effectively taking away their free will. While the G1 continuity would be the first, it would not be the last of his heralds. The role of puppeteer sported by Unicron would permeate Transformers lore, whether it be the fallen prime Megatronus, using dark science to actively seek out Unicron and join his ranks in the Dreamwave Comics continuity. The aforementioned Four Horsemen, who were noble Autobot and Decepticon warriors, corrupted by Unicron's presence. Blentron faction, worshipping Unicron in a cult-like fashion in the Beast Wars Neo series. Or the Matrix of Chaos, containing the essence corrupting Hot Rod, creating Rodimus Kron, and granting control of his body and mind in the Prime Wars trilogy. His heralds, whether Autobot, Decepticon, or other faction, stand testament to his abilities as a master manipulator, ensnaring anyone who dares cross his path. Yet to truly understand the depths of Unicron's malevolence, we must venture deeper, the very heart of darkness that beats within Unicron. Bond is a singularity, and now splintered through infinite universes. This entity, representative of chaos, has taken on many forms, depicted as a science experiment gone awry, a devourer of worlds, a corrupter of heroes and villains, and a sadistic, dark god with not a shred of remorse for his deeds. Every evil act, every tortured soul, they're all a means to an end in Unicron's ruthless pursuit of a utopia shaped in his bleak vision. Often compared to Marvel Comics Galactus due to their size and drive to consume planets, the comparison ends there. Galactus is a force of nature, consuming worlds to maintain the cosmic balance between eternity and death, and Unicron looks to upset that balance. Driven by a sinister vision of a world devoid of life, transformed into a dark paradise where chaos reigns supreme. Unicron is not merely a force of nature, but an entity driven towards a grand design, an unrecognizable multiverse robbed of the beauty of life, and filled with the eerie silence that marks the end of all things. If you enjoyed this series and want to learn more about Transformers lore, check out our Who Is series. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay handsome.